On today's show, we break down and review episode 6 of the live action Fallout TV show. Buckle up, everybody. We're headed back into the wasteland. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Fallout Fans. That's right. Fallout Fans is a limited series podcast where we discuss all things Fallout, including the live-action Fallout TV series. Today on the show, we break down and review episode 6, The Trap. Leave your review in the comments section and let us know your 5-star review of this episode of the show. Watch all 8 episodes of the first season of Fallout, available exclusively on Amazon Prime Video. Then come back here and join us as we break it all down and review each episode. The audio version of the show is available wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Megadads or Megadads Live. This is it, everybody. We're coming into the home stretch. I'm super excited. Joining me today is my best bud, the Vault Boy himself, Clay Howard. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Everything in the show as of episode 6 has taken off. This is like what I've been waiting for. It's so good. I want to talk about it. You want to talk about it. One last bit. We just want to make sure that you know we are appreciative of every listener. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be closing out with the last 2 episodes after this. Getting right into it. Strength. The best scene or moment of the episode. Clay, I know what my best moment of the episode was. I hope that you agree. I'm pretty sure that you do. What was your best strength high point of episode 6?
So the best part for me was there's a scene where Lucy is exploring around in Vault 4 and she finds her way into, I think it's a classroom, and she's looking at, and it's kind of showing some of the background of some of the war stuff that's going on, and she finds a California flag, the music starts playing from Fallout. Kind of the theme music from the video games, and I got the freaking
new California
goosebumps.
Republic flag.
NCR,
that shit
yep.
looked that shit looked like ripped out of the games, like perfect. I was like gonna cry real quick. Yo, that's a great scene.
But that music,
awesome.
It just gave me goosebumps. I wondered if it was ever gonna make an appearance. It was an interesting place to put it, but I liked it, and it was one of those things where, like, I looked over at my wife and it wasn't having the same impact that it was having for me, but obviously she hasn't played the game, so why would it? But it was cool.
I hear you. The show continues to like bank off those like high moments of taking music from the game or sound effects or anything and introducing them at the right time. So that's a key strength. I was gonna say I'm gonna start with my runner up. My runner up is when you have the flashback of Cooper hanging out at the house party with execs. He doesn't want to be there. And lo and behold, he does find somebody in the party that he invited, just the one person. And it ends up being the voice of Codsworth and, like, you know, the machine. And just that callback alone was just like super exciting. But then I love this actor. I'm going to look up his name because I don't remember it offhand.
Matt Berry.
Yeah. And he has the most iconic voice, but I watch him in like other like comedy skits that he's done like way in the past, but also he was on the show What We Do in the Shadows. And he's like a vampire and he's like hilarious in there. He's in a lot of stuff, and to see him here was just like a pleasant surprise. I don't call us like obsessive fans, but we are fans, but I don't know if the original Codsworth was in fact this actor. Do we know? By chance, do you know if that's like him?
I don't think it is.
I didn't think so, but when I was thinking back, I'm like, was this guy the voice like the whole time? We'll look it up, but I
don't think it was.
It's fantastic.
It was a good choice though.
It was my runner up because it was interesting. Like, you fall into this hey, we're Hollywood elites in our own way. And he's basically saying like, oh, the communists and the people who are like against this whole like grift of like the end of the world. He's like, we've picked the winning side. Like that was my basic, like my runner up moment was that whole scene. So I won't get into it too deep right now, but my number one was absolutely the dinner scene where you have Cooper and his wife, and they are just discussing at a deeper level like the themes of like Fallout in general in the show. And he's like, you know, who makes the rules? You know, this is getting really serious. Like, I know that you are, you know, part of this organization and there's something going on here. And then just they go in depth, and like by far this was my favorite moment of the episode. It was just killer. I think it elevates the whole show and like really drives things home. What did you think about that scene?
Yeah, I think it's some of the best acting in the episode, maybe even in the season for sure. And so definitely well done on both ends, I would say. Definitely.
And it goes to show you how the show is good without just, you know, action or anything to do necessarily with video games. It's like this is a conversation between two people. They love each other. They're at odds. There's the real threat of like something terrible happening to their family, and you could see that fear like in their eyes and like how they're talking to each other, and you know deep down they still care about each other. It's just a beautiful moment, and it has nothing to do with like anything silly or anything. It's just like great. So that was my number one. Perception. Talking about standout visuals of the show, do you recall the scene where we have Maximus about to steal the fusion core that is going to power the vault, and he's like, you know what, I could take this and I could be out of here. I could power my own armor with this thing. And he was just eyeing it, and they're confronting each other in the room, the leader of the vault, and they were just like, it was just eerie, right? And the hum and the visual like blue like slight illumination of the characters in time just elevated that tension. And I'm over here thinking to myself, like, this is cinema type shit. Like this is good. And the effective use of the sound and the light, that really blew things away for me, like visually. What did you think about that scene? Any thoughts?
No, I mean, I guess I didn't really even notice it like you did, but it's a good point. There just wasn't a lot of like heavy visuals in this episode, so it was a little more, there wasn't as many standout moments in my opinion anyway. But
I'll challenge that because people got naked in this in mass. It was just like literally a ceremony of
I don't know if that's
naked
a
people.
Standout visual, but
standout. That was a standout visual for me, for sure. But what was your standout?
So mine is a negative standout.
What?
Normally we do positives, but I just didn't think the one-eyed overseer looked very good. And I realize it's hard to do a one-eyed person that does look convincing, but for whatever reason, it was just a little too thin and like hard to see into his eye, and so it felt a little thin, and it was just
real enough.
It was just a little weird. I don't know, and I get that it's supposed to be weird and it's supposed to be a little uncomfortable, and I really like that actor, but I felt like it kind of missed the mark a little bit for me. That was
Chris Parnell. He, you know, is an actor. He's in a lot of comedy stuff. He's great, and I think he played the character well. It's Overseer Benjamin, but you're right. It did kind of look off. Like it was. I mean, it was silly, but it's kind of supposed to be. Like if you look in the games, they have like the. Like if you ever have that happen to you, like a mutation, you have Vault Boy, and then he just has like a tentacle in the side, like in a lot of like the stills and the graphics and things. And I think it's funny. So I think it kind of was intended to be like not right. So I don't know. I could forgive it, but I did understand. I was like, that doesn't even look like right. But yeah. One-eyed overseer. That was fun. Like they had like people just like oddly mutated. I still don't know exactly what's going on. I know more perceptive people like understand exactly what's happening with the vault and like why. I guess there are people irradiated from up above, but I get the feeling that they've had too much radiation from some other like means, maybe experiments. I have no idea, but it was just cool to see the irradiated people. I don't know. I kind of liked it. Endurance. We want to know if Fallout can stand up to fan scrutiny, right? Do people like the Fallout TV show? That's old news, though. Now, what we really need to talk about is does Fallout fans, the podcast, stand up to fan scrutiny? Because we did get called out in comments. Basically, people were upset. They're like, you say you're Fallout fans, but like you don't know the name of the capital of the NCR, like from Fallout 1 or 2 or whatever. Like when we first talked about like ourselves, we're like, oh, you know, I didn't play 1 or 2, you know, I'm like, I played the rest, which I think is fine. Not everybody plays every game in the damn like franchise, and you could still like be a fan. It's like dumb, but like we are not. I'm glad I'm not obsessive with it in a sense where I'm gonna like fucking shit my pants over somebody not understanding like what this reference was. But it was interesting. I want to give you a chance to talk about the great comments we got on our episode recently.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on a lot of it. I don't know. I just clearly we're like striking a nerve with some of these people where they're like so annoyed.
Thank you for listening. Real talk, seriously.
Yeah, I mean,
like leave us some more hateful comments.
We never claimed to be the most aficionado guys. We never said we know everything. I don't sit there and read the lore coming through on these computers in video games. I'm out there trying to kill things and shoot people, and I don't know. It's just like, just because we're fans doesn't mean we know everything. And just because we're doing a show with all these characters doesn't mean we're going to know everyone's names all the time. So what? I forgot the brother's name. Who cares? Oh, write it down on a piece of paper. Why don't you write it down on a piece of paper and I'll just go on doing this. So whatever.
I'm looking at shit on like Wikipedia. I'm looking at the show notes, shit like that. And that's just kind of how I'm doing it, like for fun. But like, I think about something too. It kind of shined a light on like some people aren't just, they're in their bubble. They're not like realistic. Like a lot of people watching the Fallout TV show aren't like into games necessarily at all. They could just be like into streaming shit. And they're like, I heard this was cool. And then maybe they're like, oh yeah, I had an old Xbox. Let me like take it out, or you know, my roommate has one and let me try a Fallout game. You just never know how new people are getting into things. So not everybody's seen everything. Not everyone has played every video game that you played. So, you know, that's just kind of like the world. But yeah. I do appreciate people listening because fuck, I'm doing it for fun. That means that you listen. So hot jokes on you. Thank you for tuning in. Moving on. Charisma. We want to talk about standout acting in episode 6, The Trap. Clay, who is the best actor? What standout performance did you witness here?
Yeah, so after episodes of trying to avoid this, I'm going to give to Walton Goggins. I feel like this is some of his best acting so far, especially in the flashback scenes. I know you already kind of hit on one earlier, but man, it's just so good. You're finally starting to watch him kind of peel back some of the layers and starting to kind of get fed up with Vault Tech and this whole scene about him finding out that he can't bring his dog. I don't know. It's just like, it's not like he's over there, overacting or really like trying to like tug at our heartstrings, but I think he just plays it so realistically, and you can kind of just watch him and see everything kind of moving around in his head and clicking, and so I love that there's a lot of flashbacks in this show, so we're not just seeing him with the prosthetics and all that stuff, all the makeup for the ghoul. We get to see him as a normal human, and he's just able to do some really good acting. I honestly could have given it to the woman who plays his wife in the show too. Her performances in this are just as good, where you kind of like don't like her, but you also do, and you know that she has some good intentions, even if she is like working for the bad guys basically. And so I don't know. I think all the flashback scenes in this are just really good, and I think Walton did a really, really good job. So
I agree with you. And then when we get into the final luck section, I'm gonna come back to some of the stuff you said, but 100%. I mentioned it earlier. It goes along with the strongest scene, the best acting performances by far. Her name's Frances Turner, and she plays Barb, so Cooper's wife, who's working for Vault Tech. She's trying to do her best. She just like, I'm just trying to save us, like, which is such a powerful thing to deal with and to say. And you could just tell, you know, she loves her husband, but he's like, he's not being realistic. Like, shit is bad. To know the way that she knows that nuclear war is like coming is like, that's some heavy shit. And they deal with that in the show in a way that it doesn't really get too fleshed out in the games, the seriousness of it, which is dramatic and good TV. So I thought it was great. And yeah, like just the fact, any talk about bringing in the dog got me emotional. It's like, cause yeah, you're like, it's not just like who makes the rules, but also like this like affects our lives. You know, this is like a big change. You know, they're going to dictate our lives down there in the vault. And they do mention about, again, kind of being in a good vault. So they hint at the fact that something's going on with the other vaults. We know like hints from the games that nefarious things happen, but for that to be a theme in the show of like what's really happening with the vaults has been a standout. So that was definitely the best acting for me. And then the runner up, like I said, going back, Matt Berry, Snip Snip is the name. And like, it's just like the Codsworth, like, actor thing is just like it's just so good. I love that actor and I love the moment. He's like, the end of the world is a product. You know, they're just making money off this thing and the threat of the end of the world. And just it's insane the themes that they hit on. So yeah, strong acting all around. Even the bar scene, you know, I thought there were some decent lines between quote unquote the president and the ghoul, like good acting all over. So yeah, definitely a strength across the board in this elevated episode. Intelligence. We want to talk what's really dumb, what's a low moment of the whole episode. I'll let you go first on this one. Did anything not pique your fancy about the episode 6?
Yeah, I guess you hit on this a little bit earlier, but the boob scene, the orgy scene,
when everybody just gets naked.
Yeah,
it's a little much, right? Is it necessary? We don't know.
I saw it coming. Like I knew it was gonna get weird. I thought it was gonna turn into a proper orgy, but it doesn't actually. They just I
didn't see anyone touching. I wouldn't say orgy. It's more like a showing.
And then they just rubbed ashes on their foreheads and drank blood. And so it was like, okay, it's weird, but like, did they need to take their tops off to do that, or was it just for the shock and awe of it? And I guess I don't know.
It doesn't even make sense from like a lore standpoint, right? Like even if you're crazy, it's like we drank blood, we put ashes on each other. Like when does the getting naked kind of get into it? Like very weird. I like how Lucy in that scene, she's like, all right, no, I'm not gonna do it. Like she was like, I could do it. Like I have no body shame. Like, you know, I like what I'm packing or whatever. She was like ready to do it, but then doesn't. Yeah. The low point for me was Maximus living it up. So he's living the good vault life and he's like eating like caviar. He's like, what is this? But I just, he has a particular demeanor. This character is a particular character. It's like when he was turning down sex with Lucy. It's like, oh, it'll get big like a pimple. Like, it's like he's like kind of an infantile like kind of mind, and he's just like loving the warm robe. And I don't know, I could have done without it, put it that way. And I think that in an episode that was so high across the board, that is my weak point of the episode, which is, you know, it's not like the worst, but I could have done without it.
Yeah, I mean, I can make an argument for it to a degree. I mean, we've seen Lucy and her come from being in a vault to being up above in the wasteland, and how difficult that transition was. And so now we're getting to see someone who's been in the wasteland their whole life, and all of a sudden they come down here and get to live what we think is a pretty crappy life in a vault. But for him, he's like, this is paradise. And so, but I see what you mean. There's some validity in there, I would say. Yeah.
Agility. You got to be fast in the wasteland. Now let's go point by point, scene by scene, quickly through the episode and break it down, pointing out anything noteworthy that we want to talk about. Episode 6, The Trap, kicks off with Cooper giving a Vault Tech advertisement, just kind of talking about life in the vault and how it's state of the art and how this is a way to protect your family. And he runs into the makeshift family that's supposed to represent people who will be in the vault. I think they actually are going to be in the vault, if I recall like the lore or the way that the lines are delivered. But basically, a family of doctors saying, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna be down here, and this is gonna be great." And then we have Cooper wrapping it up by running into a Vault-Tec representative who is actually formerly with West Tech, who developed the first power armor suits. So a lot going on here, but to me, amazing opening. I love just the, opening up with the commercial that's also like kind of telling the story, and then him confronting him about, the scumminess of the business of what they're doing and being involved with West Tech. I just loved it. Any thoughts on the opening of the episode?
I agree. I loved it too. I thought there was a lot of good stuff in it, and even rewatching it, there's things that you'll continue to pick up on that you didn't the first time. So a lot of good stuff in here. Yep.
Sweet. Uh, you get another really good look at the vault pre-fall. Like what the original on a commercial like promise of it is, and it just gives off that like that weird alternate history, 1960s or whatever vibe, whatever year it is that we're getting into. I just loved it, like across the board. We move on to the executive party at Cooper's place, and he's just living in swag lifestyle, basically in LA in one of these like gigantic mansions. It's decked out, in the times. Everybody's dressed to the nines, but his friends aren't there except for one. The voice of Snip Snip or Codsworth or these machines that are going to be developed, and his friend is just hilarious as a character. They go back and forth banter about how the other side and the people who are against what we're doing here with the vaults and with corporate, ownership, and we're also kind of like elites or whatever. They're down, like they've sold out basically, and they're happy about it. They're like, fuck it, we're gonna win out in the end. And he again says that the end of the world is a product. You're a product, I'm a product, and it's just everything's a product. And that's kind of sad, and it talks to like themes and Fallout of like corporations being like fucking terrible. What did you think of the pool scene and the party?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because he's kind of Cooper's being pulled between two different worlds. He's a actor, he's a Hollywood person, but then he explains that he's literally not like other actors won't act with him because he's the face of this evil corporation that's profiteering off of war basically, and so he kind of feels conflicted, and he's losing friendship and work, and doesn't want to necessarily do it, but kind of feels like he doesn't have a choice. I don't know. It's fun. It's good themes and interesting stuff too for them to kind of play off.
Love it. Well, there's like a very short snippet. It's like, what happened to the ghoul? What happened to Coop? He has recovered from his binger, getting rehydrated and re-drugged up in the supermart. So we see him being hauled off by the local law enforcement, and then we'll wrap up with him a little bit later. But they lead him through the desert and to a location far away. It seems like far away anyway. Going back, we're in Vault 4, and we have Lucy and Maximus, and they're adjusting to life. Now, they are... She offers him sex, right? And, he turns it down. And, okay, fine. But that's going to bother me. Mostly because, like, she deserves it. She's been working hard. She's been out here in these streets. And he's just gonna like leave her hanging, which I think is just rude. As a gentleman, they do talk to Sharon Debus, who portrays Birdie, who she's not the overseer, but like the number 2 in command or whatever. And they're basically explaining like, hey, we take people in from the surface. We've done so since, the big bombs had fell on that one capital city, and everyone from, what is it, Shady Sands? I'm going to get it wrong on purpose now. What is it?
Shady Shores.
Shady Shores, whatever.
No, it's not.
So anyway, it doesn't matter. And then they come together and they just say, hey, you're safe here. And it turns into a weird moment where they are enjoying the life of luxury somewhat. But we have the overseer coming in with one eye, and later we see more people with mutations and glowing. And it's just an overall weird situation. And Maximus is skeptical, but Lucy wants to give it a shot, and it's just weird. what did you think of the vault so far that we're in and everything going on there? To me, it was just, yeah, a little weird overall.
Yeah, it's weird, but I mean, they're definitely building it up. I think with the music and the shots and everything, they're purposely, I think the viewer, even not knowing anything about, vaults in the games, I think you're already kind of on edge. They do that one shot after they talk about having sex where it says that they're, um, I forget what the wording
Test
is above the
subjects.
door. Yeah, like test subjects basically. And so I think that very quickly the show is trying to show you that something's not quite right. And so I thought they did a pretty good job setting that up.
Yep, agreed. Now, this isn't gone into any depth later, so I'll bring it up now. They do say that they accept people from the surface, but at this point, she talks to the overseer a little bit more about it later, but by even the end of the episode, we really don't understand what that is all about. So we have people who theoretically have been in the vault originally, people who have come down, and are they irradiated from the nuclear bomb that went off in the city and that's why they're messed up? Or we don't know. Again, we haven't seen future episodes, but at this point we don't know, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
Interesting. Very interesting. Moving on, we have a flashback yet again, and we have Cooper and his wife beginning to discuss what Cooper would like to do. He's like, maybe we should leave this all behind. I could go back to being a cowboy. And she's like, be serious. We have to take care of ourselves and get into one of these good vaults. And he's like, well, like, what do you mean? And he contemplates, he knows something's wrong. He gets a phone call and just like, a lot of things are happening where, long story short, he is skeptical. And he does run into someone who was a former actor friend of his, turned now communist. And he's like, how could you? And he's like, how could you? And he thinks he's a sellout. He thinks that he's crazy for, throwing his career away for like these ideals. And he doesn't even really understand. And he's trying to tell him, he's like, look, corporations suck. You don't understand. He's like, they make money off the threat of the end of the world and actually at the end of the world happening. Like, that's why you have the need for the vaults. What did you think about this bar confrontation and the discussion between Coop and his wife in the hot tub?
Yeah, so the bar conversation actually was very interesting. He brought up some points on, vault tech and things that I guess I'd never really thought about before, and maybe it is explored in the games, and I just don't
Hmm.
remember. But there
Yeah.
was a lot of stuff that he was kind of inferring and making mention of, where I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. Like, I don't know. Yeah, we'll talk more about it as we get toward the end here, but that was good. And then the hot tub scene was really intense, and I wasn't sure where they were going with it, and so it's building up. I like it.
Yeah, just themes of like, the you don't think about it right away. It's like the military industrial complex or whatever. Like, basically people are making money like when they're making weapons for war or whatever. But what about making the protection for people to live underground after nuclear war? Could you make money off of that? It's just such a crazy theme. We move on to the even more in-depth, the crescendo of the whole conversation at the dinner table, where Coop and his wife are just going back and forth, and they're like, who makes the rules once we're down there? And she's like, what does it matter? You're alive if you survive. If. And it's just like crazy themes. You can feel the tension, the incredible acting. And this is why I recommend the show to anybody, not just video game fans, because I'm like, you get to experience stuff like this. It's fun, it's good, it's drama. Any other thoughts about that?
No.
We have Lucy and the Overseer kind of discussing in depth a little bit more about, hey, things are kind of weird. Yeah, we let people down here, and that's how we survive. That's just the mandate from my predecessor. Like, those are the rules, and, they're the weirdos. But, like, it almost made it seem like he was irradiated and wasn't from the surface. So that would mean that the people coming down weren't, like, mutated. That would mean that he and others may have been mutated down there. So I don't know. Maybe it's the fusion core and the way that they're generating energy. I have no idea what's going on. But she says, why can't we go to that one secret level of the vault? And he's like, get the fuck out of here. And that's basically what happened. Moving on, we have Maximus in the vault getting confronted for eyeing the fusion core again by the second in command, by Birdie. So Birdie and Maximus have kind of a showdown. And she's like, you know what? Why don't you just get acclimated here and just, rest up? Like, and then he just eats caviar, takes a hot shower. We have a whole montage of him just enjoying himself. Again, the low point for me, but it was okay. What did you think of Maximus enjoying things?
It was fine. I wanted to say this just a second earlier, but I think it's all around this time. This is the part in the episode where I feel like things kind of start dragging or have been dragging. I think from the point that Lucy meets with the overseer through this point, and then even a little bit further in, it kind of was getting a little slow. Like even when I rewatched it recently, started getting a little sleepy and was kind of
wow.
yeah. But like I said, it's not bad. Like it's all good stuff. I just think as far as the rest of the episode, this stuff just kind of feels not quite filler, but like almost like filler, where it's like, come on, like I don't know. A lot of it's probably necessary. I don't know if the whole overseer conversation was completely necessary, but I'm all for watching Maximus, get to see the pampered life for a little bit. So
Yep. Well, we'll jump back really quick to the scene where the ghoul gets taken in front of an old friend, let's say, and he says, well, I didn't know that you called yourself the president now. And he's like, somebody's got to bring order to these lawless lands or whatever. And the ghoul pressures, basically taunts himself into a way to get up and out of his restraints and killing the guards while he asks the president about Molhander? How do you
come on, man! You're in a Fallout podcast. You should know how to say the name of the
Moldaver.
terribly named villain.
Moldaver. It's not like it's a great name.
It's a terrible name for a bad guy.
Doesn't matter. So the big bad, she's like, oh, that's her in the photo, and I thought the scene was good. It had a little bit of action. I mean, it was just a confrontation. I thought the cinematography was pretty good, like the color grading when they're in like the old west, like sandy desert of the wasteland in a bar. I thought it looked like old and ran down, and he looked great as the ghoul. Any thoughts about the sit down with the president?
You forgot to mention that he sewed Lucy's finger on his hand.
Did he? I didn't know that. So he had her finger?
Right. So remember she bit his off, and so he like turned around. This was what, last episode? He turned around and cut hers off with a knife, and we're like, whoa, that seemed really like a big overreaction. Then we find out later he took some sewing and he literally sewed her finger where his used to be and had a functioning finger again.
This is not how it works.
Apparently it does for ghouls. I mean, ghouls must be able...
maybe.
We've been talking about this. Like, what is the rule with ghouls? Like,
we don't
why
know.
Why was he buried and they were keeping him alive and taking off body parts? Is it because they can be reused?
Well, he also got shot in the back in the town in the original fight in Philly. So he took bullets straight to his body and like nothing happened. Yeah, I don't know what the rule is. Maybe they regenerate, you're saying, or something like that.
Well, we should know because we're
we should totally know because
we should know
clairvoyant.
every answer.
We're clairvoyant. We do want to say that we have Lucy exploring the vault and going into a classroom for children that had lived in the vault, and they go through the timeline. So Shady Sands was founded, the NCR, New California Republic, was created, and then they become a power, and then the fall of Shady Sands. So everything happens over, I think, like a few hundred years, which is sad and interesting. And I actually just love the theme of like, it's inevitable. We always kind of fuck up, and we already rebuilt, and it's just kind of a lost cause. Lucy is invited to a, what would you call it? Like a naked party. So they start drinking blood and putting ashes of those who had fallen in the city in the previous bombing over their bodies. And they, at the very end, show a picture of Moldaver. and that's it. It's like, this is the fire mother, whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
whatever her wasteland scary name is supposed to be, and it's like, we're doing this for her. All these naked titties out, and are for her. We're gonna drink blood for her. Interesting. Any thoughts? Again, kind of over the top, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reveal, because the way you're telling there's more to it. At the same time, we're also seeing flashbacks, which I know you're going to cover in a second, but it's all leading up to Mold Digger coming out, being revealed as someone who was alive, pre-war or pre the bombs dropping, and she's also going to be the savior of Shady Sands, and so it's like there's a lot more to this character than just somebody who broke into Lucy's vault and stole her father. Like, this character is, there's a lot going on. So it's a really big, like, shock and awe moment. In fact, when I was rewatching it, I kept thinking, this is where the episode ends. And then it's like, no, it doesn't. They just dropped this relatively big bomb, and then the episode continues. So it's pretty interesting.
It does weave in and out, and I try to, because things kind of go so quickly, talk about like one theme arc or whatever. But yeah, we have Cooper in the flashback meeting up at the meeting that his old buddy had invited him to. So he's with the communists now. He's with the people who are gonna be trying to talk shit about Voltec and like really uncover what's happening here. And what we have is a old in the past. We have Moldaver, who somehow is still existing in Lucy's time. So I'm not understanding how, as a non-ghoul, she is basically ageless from the time that we have Cooper seeing her at this meeting. She's like, I'm a big fan, and she turns into some crazy person who leads a cult hundreds of years later. So interesting. What wraps up the show is a bit of a B plot, as far as Lucy discovering some very, very strange experiments going on in the hidden level of the vault where she's not supposed to go. And we have, I guess it's a video of a woman giving birth to animals that then eat her as she's strapped down.
You sound so bored right now, dude. Like, I don't.
It was just weird. There were people, little creatures in jars and that typical type of shit that is just like mad scientist shit going on. And somebody knows what's happening, because you have a vault dweller who is coming in saying like, "Oh, you're still here." So they're like working the scene and doing science shit. And Lucy gets freaked out, starts beating people's ass, and then they wrap it up with like, you people are crazy. And it's like, no, this is like who we are. I'm sure that if we went to your home, your culture and your ways would be like weird to us, which is just that's what a crazy ass person would say, I guess. And they wrap it up with Maximus just enjoying some popcorn and TV. Any thoughts about Lucy finding the secret level of the vault and all the shit that we see?
No, kind of a weak ending to an episode, if you ask me. But
it was all right. There was, and I don't know if this is the case, there is some water creature stuck behind a big pane of glass, like in a tank or something, as she's walking by, and it looked like we were supposed to know what it is. Did you know what it was?
Yeah, I think it's the same one that they pull inside out. Yeah, the gulper
thingy. So like,
I don't know if it's the same one, if it's a dead one. It didn't look alive. It was kind of floating, but I don't know if they pulled it out of the water after it got killed. I don't know, but it's definitely one of the things we saw earlier. So.
Luck. If we're lucky, what do we hope to see in future episodes? I'm so happy we're getting another season after this, that has been confirmed, and I want to see more flashbacks. There's so obviously such a deep story of, okay, here's what life is like in the wasteland after, nuclear war, but what happens with people who are living at the time of it or in the fear of it before. And we have, I think, potential with Cooper, but maybe other stories that we could see in that time frame. And I just really like seeing that juxtaposition of like how things were before and how it shaped things that are now. in the wasteland, and that's what I hope to see, is more flashbacks, more stories being told in that like dual way. And it has to be part of, obviously they're gonna probably pick it up with what's happening at the meeting and maybe how Cooper gets radicalized and against Vault-Tec. But what did you think?
Yeah. I guess what I would like to see more of is I feel like Maximus really needs to win the audience over like ASAP. And a lot of things that you shared today, I think, kind of echo that and corroborate that a little bit. So I'm ready for him to come out of his shell. This timid guy who doesn't want to have sex with a cute girl is getting a little old, and so he needs to own up to his responsibilities, become the hero he thinks he is or actually wants to be, and start becoming awesome and save the day or something. So that's what I want to see.
I hear you. Good call. Wrapping it up with our 5-star review. Clay, I'll let you go first on this one. I'm on the edge with my decision, quite honestly.
So like I said, the flashback scenes in this are so good and are really some of the best parts. The vault stuff is kind of, while it's interesting and not poorly done by any means, it's just a little slow, not as interesting. And so I think the flashback saved this episode. The main plot with Lucy was a little slow for this one. And then the ending, as I just said, I didn't think the ending of the episode was as good. I thought the reveal of Moldaver was better than the where they stopped with her fighting off like scientist guys and getting carried away. So not their strongest episode, but still enjoyable. 3 out of 5.
You're right. I mean, ending with the other, and they totally could have. Ending with the other scene would have been very strong. Interesting point. I have to go 4 stars. This is the best episode that I've seen so far. It is elevated by the standout acting, and the decent action. The subplot of the vault isn't the best, but still interesting. The great confrontation between Maximus and Birdie. The weirdness going on with the vault, although it was a little over the top. I like the weirdness, and the plot thickens as far as what's going on here. Now we have a bloodthirsty cult on our hands. And then again, just all the flashbacks and the story elements of what's going on now with the future past thing, with Moldaver being alive now. It's just super intriguing. Best episode that I think we've seen. I'm gonna go 4 stars. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Fallout fans will be back with the final 2 episodes. Episodes 7 and 8 will wrap us up. I think we're gonna just do it at the same time and just view both. And I'm sure that other people were the same, where they just wanted to wrap it up. They couldn't wait for a cliffhanger and just watch the last 2 episodes. So I think we'll wrap it up with the last 2. And it's going to be great. Can't wait. Thank you for joining me, Clay. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Stay cool out there in the wasteland. We'll see you next time.